So just following on from your last answer about family and marriage, and how you kind of took us through those answers. Our next question is going to introduce ministry, because that's kind of where you're at now. So the question is, what is the biggest challenge you faced and perhaps continue to face in balancing family and ministry?
Thankfully, first, let me give you context. I came into ministry very reluctant. I'd been in church, I'd been in faith, two different things. And I was happy in faith, I had no problem with it. But very early on, it was identified that there was a call on my life, and I resisted that because I wanted to stay professional. I think in many respects, God gave me the window to go be everything I wanted to be professionally. So by the time I was coming into ministry, my children were now of age.
Okay.
And so there wasn't that contention, that pressure. So it's hopefully, I'd say, they might say different, but I don't think they would.
We'll ask them.
I think the balance is sort of fair because they don't need me as much.
Okay.
Were they still in the dependent years, because I was heavily involved in their growing up, I would have had serious challenges. But having said that, there is still the burden of ministries non-stop. Ministries, you walk around the clock. You're not in control of your time, and so one does still have to constantly juggle. But one thing I do know and do well, and I've always done, is I know when I've reached my
upper limit.
And I stop.
That's good.
I stop. And that's when I go into Netflix, that's when I go listen to music and take a walk. And sometimes it could last more than a day.
Right.
And then I recharge again and get back into it.
That's important. I think that element of recharging is so crucial.
Absolutely.
Especially in the role that you occupy.
Yep.
Can you share a memorable moment from your early days in ministry that still impacts you today?
Memorable days, and you're looking for good days?
It could be good. It was something that you stands out to you from your early days of ministry that you almost still have on your mind today.
In whatever way.
I think the manner of my coming into office continues to stand out poignantly.
Okay.
The founding pastor, Pastor Shola Fulani, who pastored the church for 19 years, was moving on. And the board had decided that they wanted someone who was a member of the church rather than bring somebody in from outside. And so there was just essentially, two ordained ministers, put it that way. So there were essentially two people. And somehow the Lord fell on me. And I was told on a Friday that this was likely to happen. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was called on Saturday into a meeting, and I was told I'm going to be presented to the church on Sunday, and I was going to become the pastor of the church. Now, bear in mind that this was a church I'd been a member of for 10 years, but I wasn't in that sort of role. It wasn't like the assistant pastor becoming a pastor. It was like, oh, we know that guy, he sits in front, becoming a pastor. So one of the most memorable things was that Sunday I cried bitterly. But one thing was clear, God had taken me through a journey. I'd gone through my resistance. I'd reached a point where God had shaken everything that could be shaken. And I knew that if I said no, by that point, I'll beg to do ministry. Because it was now obvious to me.
Yeah.
And so I just said yes.
Okay.
And then the memorable thing was, it was a Wednesday, so the Sunday I was presenting to the church, and on the Wednesday I was alone at home, and I just started crying. I was sobbing, and I heard it distinctly. Now, wipe your tears, go take a shower, and go to work.
Oh dear.
And from that day till this day, I have just been going. I have just been going. And it's been, the memorable side of it is quite early on, for a church that went through such a major challenge, half the church left. Many people didn't even know what they wanted to do with themselves. And to galvanize the people, to build a team and take us as far as we've come. 9 years now. It's definitely been it's been an experience, and God has been good.
It's been a journey.
No, it's been a journey.
It
really has
really
been.
has been. It really has
No,
been.
it has been. It has been. And a half.
Okay. So this brings me to our next question. This question, I mean, you can take it whichever way you want, but I'll ask it anyway. And it goes, what thing or things made you happy 20 years ago and still make you happy now?
Definitely my wife. Definitely my wife. 20 years ago, my children were born, so definitely my children. Definitely my vision, my goal, my capacity, which is not dimmed, my circle of influence, my network of friends, which is quite extensive. 20 years ago, I understood the power of relationships. I'd been an executive. I'd run things.
Yeah.
And so I brought that into office as well. And I think finally, God in his own wisdom established my feet in places that were complementary to the man that I became.
Great.
And influences who I am today.
Great.
Including my weaknesses.
Of course.
So, just because we're talking about influence and influencing and however you want to put it, our question is, how are you dominating your mountain of influence?
How am I dominating it?
Yeah.
I don't believe in dominance.
Okay.
I think I prefer collaborative.
Okay.
I prefer creative. I prefer being a spoke in the wheel and the wheel being together.
Right.
Now, I'm very driven.
Okay.
I'm very deliberate. I'm very, even if I say so myself, clear-minded. So I could be larger than life, which could be interpreted, or perhaps it is dominance, but I don't think it
You're not seeing it that way.
I'm just seeing it as expressing all that is in me, and all that is in me is urgent, it's demanding. Everything about where we are today, I saw it. And so when I walk into this building, for example, I'm fulfilled. Our previous building, when I took over, made dramatic changes immediately. Again, I was fulfilled. So that may be dominance, perhaps, but for me, it's more, let's do this.
Yeah.
We can do this.